What's up guys and welcome to my Columbina guide. Columbina alongside 6.3 is finally here, and today I'm taking you over everything you need to know in order to understand and use it, including a kit breakdown, best weapons to use, artifact sets that you want to run, the stats for main sets and subsets you want to look out for, and then at the very end I will have some general team building ideas. Starting it off with her kit, for her normal attacks she will summon Moonlight Tides, performing 3 attacks that deal hydro damage. Her charge attack will be able to consume Verdant Dew, and will replace her charge attack with a special charge attack called Moon Dew Cleanse, which will instead of stamina consume the 1 Verdant Dew to deal 3 instances of AoE dender damage to opponents in front, and is considered Lunar Bloom damage. Her skill awakens Moonbound Tides, dealing AoE hydro damage and summoning Gravity Ripple. Gravity Ripple follows the active character on the field, continuously dealing AoE hydro damage to surrounding opponents. While having Gravity Ripple on the field and nearby party members trigger lunar reactions or inflict lunar reaction damage, Columbina will accrue a special gravity. Once gravity is accumulated to its limit, different types of damage will be dealt to enemies based off the type of lunar reactions that has accumulated the most gravity for Columbina, and Moonside Ascendant Gleam will make Gravity Ripple inflict AoE hydro damage over a wider area. Before we continue, I want to read out the gravity interference because it is something important that will be mentioned later and isn't directly said. So what gravity interference is: additionally, while Gravity Ripple is on the field and nearby party members trigger lunar reactions or inflict lunar reaction damage, Columbina will gain the new moon's omen effect for 2 seconds, continuously accumulating gravity. 20 gravity can be accumulated every 2 seconds. You can have up to 60 and will be removed when the duration of Gravity Ripple ends. Once you accumulate gravity to its limit, a special gravity interference will be triggered. Different effects will be triggered depending on the lunar reaction type that has accumulated the most gravity. If the lunar reaction that has accumulated the most gravity is for Lunar Charge, gravity interference will deal a single instance of AoE electro damage and is considered Lunar Charge damage. Lunar Bloom, gravity interference will fire 5 Moon Dew sigils at surrounding opponents, dealing dendro damage and is considered Lunar Bloom damage. And Lunar Crystallize, gravity interference will deal a single instance of Geo AoE damage and is considered Lunar Crystallized damage. Columbina's Elemental Burst will temporarily transform the surrounding terrain to Lunar Domain and will also deal AoE Hydro damage. And as you can see, within the Lunar Domain, lunar reaction damage will be increased. For her passives, her A1, when triggering gravity interference, Columbina gains a lunacy effect, increasing her crit rate by 5% for 10 seconds. That stacks up to 3 times. Her A4, when characters within the Lunar Domain trigger lunar reactions, they will gain the following effects respectively. For Lunar Charge, when the Thundercloud performs lightning strikes at a valid target, it has a 33% chance to perform an additional lightning strike. Lunar Bloom, when triggering Lunar Bloom reactions, the party gains a special Moonridge Dew. Up to 3 Moonridge Dews can be gained every 18 seconds, which TLDR, Moonridge Dew is just the same thing as Verdant Dew, it just functions as a substitute. And then for Lunar Crystallize, when Moondrift Harmony is triggered, every Moondrift has a 33% chance to inflict an extra attack. For Moonsign passive, when a party member triggers a Electro Charge, Bloom, or Hydro Crystallized reaction, it will be converted to Lunar Charge, Lunar Bloom, or Lunar Crystallized reaction respectively. Lunar reaction damage inflicted by party members gain a base damage increase based off Columbina's max HP. For every 1000 points of max HP, the base damage of lunar reactions is increased by 0.2% up to a maximum of 7%. Additionally, having Columbina on the team will increase the moon signs level by 1. Finally, for Columbina's constellations, her C1, unleashing her elemental skill, will immediately trigger an effect equivalent to the gravity interference, and the effect can be triggered once every 15 seconds. Having Ascendant Gleam, when the interference is triggered, if the lunar reaction type that accumulated the most gravity is Lunar Charged, your active character will regenerate 6 energy. If it was Lunar Bloom, your active character's interruption resistance will be increased for 8 seconds. And if it was Lunar Crystallized, summons a Rain Sea Shield. The Rain Sea Shield damage absorption is based off 12% of Columbina's max HP and will absorb Hydro damage with 250% effectiveness, and all nearby party members' lunar reaction damage is elevated by 1.5%. For C2, the rate of accumulating gravity increases by 34%. When gravity interference triggers, Columbina will receive Lunar Brilliance, which increases her max HP by 40% for 8 seconds. When having Ascendant Gleam, when Lunar Brilliance is active, if during the current trigger of gravity interference, the lunar reaction type that has accumulated the most gravity for Columbina is Lunar Charge, the attack of your current active character increases an attack equal to 1% of Columbina's max HP. For Lunar Bloom, elemental mastery of your current active character increase in elemental mastery is equal to 0.35% of Columbina's max HP. And for Lunar Crystallize, defense of your current active character increases by 1% of Columbina's max HP and will elevate nearby party members' lunar reaction damage by 7%. Her C3 is an increase to her elemental skill talent and also can elevate the lunar reaction damage by 1.5%, similar to every other constellation. Her C4, when gravity interference is triggered, 4 elemental energy will be restored to Columbina. Additionally, if the lunar reaction type that has accumulated the most gravity for Columbina is Lunar Charge, Lunar Bloom, or Lunar Crystallized, the lunar reaction damage dealt by this instance of gravity interference is increased by 12.5% /2.5% /12.5% 25% of Columbia's max HP, respectively. And the effect can be triggered at most once every 15 seconds, and all nearby party members' lunar reaction damage is elevated by 1.5%. For C5 will be the talent increase for her ultimate, and also similarly to every other dupe, all nearby party members' lunar reaction damages will be elevated by 1.5%. And her C6, for 8 seconds after the character in the lunar domain triggers a lunar reaction, based on the elements involved in the reaction, the crit damage of the corresponding elemental damage done by all party members is increased by 80%. The crit damage increasing effect for the same elemental type does not stack. All nearby party members' lunar reaction damage is elevated by 7%. For weapons, of course, no matter the role, if you want her to do better damage or support better, her signature option is going to be the best, providing you crit damage and base attack. Of course, you can ignore base attack entirely, but this is a signature that gives 88.2% crit damage. For the effect, it will increase max HP for the wearer by 10% when triggering lunar reactions or inflicting lunar reaction damage upon opponents. The equipping character recovers 14 energy and will receive the Bountiful Sea's Sacred Wine effect for 12 seconds. Max HP increases by an additional 14%. Crit damage from lunar reaction damage increases by 60%. The energy recovery effect can be triggered at most once every 18 seconds, and the effect can also be triggered when off field. So first, talking about the crit damage, that is going to be really good since you do want Columbina to do good damage, and of course she can crit, so that's going to be great for anytime you crit. The actual effect is able to increase your max HP, and as Columbina is a max HP scaler, and she is able to give buffs depending on her max HP, do more damage based off max HP as well, which is why all these HP increases are good. What's especially good is the fact that it also gives 14 energy, which is going to be very, very good at relieving her energy requirements, so you can keep uptime on her burst. So the 14 energy it does provide is extremely good. At the top it all off, crit damage from lunar reaction damage will increase by 60%, so lunar reactions do a lot more. This weapon is very packed and is overall her best in slot. For other 5-stars specifically, you can use one signature that's like a crit increase and also somewhat usable with an HP increase, such as Nouvelet Sig. As you see, also has an 88.2% increase to crit damage, increases the wearer's HP by 16%. When current HP increases or decreases, chart attack damage will be increased by 14% for 4 seconds. For the most part, you can really ignore the rest of it. It's mainly for the crit damage stick and also the HP percent increase, which is very good for Columbina. And chart attack damage isn't really something worthwhile, even if you're looking at her chart attack playstyle, is just because the main damage comes off lunar damage and this doesn't actually impact it. But if you are able to get full stacks, which you should be able to depending on how you play, you can also get the 8 energy, which I mentioned with her signature is also very good for energy requirements. But again, mainly not really accounting for anything else, it's just the crit damage and also HP stat stick. Same thing applies to Mulani's signature. If you have that as well, you can use it for the same reason, it has the same stat stick and also 4% more HP, so it's 20% HP increase. So if you do have that, you can use that as well. For a more on-field DPS Columbina, you can actually use a Nefer signature, which is also an 88.2% increase to crit damage, provides 8% crit rate. When the equipping character unleashes elemental skill, they gain the Secret Lies effect, which will increase EM by 80 for 12 seconds. When the equipping character does Lunar Bloom damage to an opponent, they gain the Moon of Truth effect, which will increase crit damage by 24% for 4 seconds. When both Secret Lies and Moon of Truth effects are active at the same time, the results of both effects will be increased by 50%. So once again, big stick to crit damage, that's going to be good. Also provides you some crit rate, so that's good for balancing her ratio. You use skill the moment you get it really, so you get the EM increase for 12 seconds, which is a good amount of time, and that's going to help with overall damage as well. And with the charge attack, she is able to deal Lunar Bloom damage, so you are able to get the second part, increasing crit damage by 24%, allowing you to get both effects active at the same time, and increase the effects by 50% to get very good EM and crit damage output out of this weapon as well. So for an on-fielder DPS Columbina, this is actually one of her other better options. You can also use Prototype Amber on her as well. Provides a 41.3% increase to HP as a secondary stat, and using Elemental Burst regenerates 6 energy every 2 seconds for 6 seconds, and all party members will regenerate 6% HP every 2 seconds for the duration. If you don't have C1 Columbina, there's not going to be any form of sustaining at all. This actual weapon helps you a bit with that and also provides you a lot of HP to use. So with the extra bit of healing you can get, this can fill the role of a sustain just quite a little bit. Of course, not as good as a full-on sustain, which she's not really doing that at all, but it gives you access to a bit of an emergency heal if needed. So this weapon is also one of her better options to use. You can also use the Aetherlight weapon as well, which provides 45.9% energy recharge. And the effect for 20 seconds after the character uses the elemental skill, EM will be increased by 200. So just a massive increase to EM while also providing energy recharge. This weapon is on the weaker side to use, but it is usable, mainly if you are someone that is struggling on energy recharge rolls, but your artifacts do cover a lot of HP percent slash crit slash other EM sources. But again, this weapon provides a lot of EM, so you don't have to focus on it too much. You can also use Sacrificial Jade, which provides 36.8% crit rate, and then the effect when not on the field for more than 5 seconds, max HP is increased and EM is increased, and it will be cancelled for after the wearer has been on field for 10 seconds. So if you are running her as the off field, which she will take no field time really if you are using her like that, you get this effect that's going to provide massive HP increases, which gets a lot better with refinements, of course, and also a big EM increase. And then the effect being crit rate helps you balance your crit ratio if you need help with that. So for a off-fielder, so mainly just burst, skill, leave, which is going to be the most common playstyle, this weapon is also very strong. And then the usual, of course, any character can really use this as a support. Favonius Codex is going to be great, especially in something like Stygian Onslaught. When fully leveled, it provides 45.9% energy recharge, and then the effect crits will have a chance to generate a small amount of elemental particles, which will regenerate 6 energy for the character and occurs every 6 seconds. So this is really good. It covers a lot of her energy requirements, significantly can lower the amount of energy for both her and the team, and is especially going to be really good in something like Stygian Onslaught, where you do not start with energy. So if you need the help with energy for someone on your team, or even Columbina herself, you can run Favonius Codex. And then for artifact sets, the Morningstar and Moon set is going to be the most commonly used best in slot. 2-piece provides 80 EM increase, 4-piece when the equipping character is off-field, lunar reaction damage is increased by 20%. When the party's moon sign level is at least Ascendant Gleam, lunar reaction damage will be further increased by 40% and will disappear after the equipping character is active for 3 seconds. So this set is practically just completely made for Columbina when using her on a playstyle where she's just going to skill alt leave. 2-piece provides EM, so that's going to be great for overall damage, and then the 4-piece provides you a bunch of lunar reaction damage. This is actually not affecting the team one, it's mainly affecting the one that she does, which is going to add up to a lot of damage. And since, once again, she is a off-field Hydro App / sub DPS, when using her in that role, you're going to get that massive increase to lunar reaction damage for her own damage she's doing off-field, which is going to add up to quite a lot. So when using her for that role, where you are, again, just using skill, ultimate, leaving, and not really having her on field for, of course, more than the 3 seconds, otherwise the effect disappears, this will be the set you want to use. You can also use the Silken Mood Serenade set, with the 2-piece providing 20% energy regen. 4-piece when dealing elemental damage, gain the Gleaming Moon Devotion effect for 8 seconds, which will increase all party members' elemental mastery by 60/120 when the party's moon sign is nascent / ascendant gleam. The equipping character can trigger this effect off-field, and all party members' lunar reaction damage is increased by 10% for each Gleaming Moon effect that the party members have, and the Gleaming Moon effects do not stack. Once again, energy recharge, very important on Columbina, so getting that extra 20% is going to help a lot. And with the effect, you're able to provide up to 120 EM, which having Ascendant Gleam on Columbia's teams would be usually what you always have. So 120 EM, and also increase lunar reaction damage by 10%. The only caveat to this set is really no one else is allowed to be using the set if you are running it on Columbina, as it does state it doesn't stack. So if you have it on multiple characters, you are just having the stats and nothing else, and then of course the 2-piece. So if no one else on the team, such as Lauma or Nefer, are not holding this set, you can give it to Columbina instead for her to use this effect. But again, if anyone else on the team already has it, such as the characters I mentioned, Lauma, Ineffa, even someone like I know, if you're running that, then you don't want to use this on her, but otherwise it is usable. If you want Columbina to be more of an on-field DPS, you can actually use the Night of the Skies Unveiling, which 2-piece increases EM by 80, 4-piece when nearby party members trigger Lunar Reaction if the equipping character is on the field, gain Gleaming Moon Intent effect for 4 seconds, which will increase the crit rate by 15%/30% when the party's moon sign is nascent / ascendant gleam. All party members' Lunar Reaction damage is increased by 10% for each different Gleaming Moon effect that the party members do have and cannot stack. Of course, the cannot stack part of this one won't really matter since she would only be the one running this. 2-piece, again, EM is going to be a great increase for these Lunar Reaction characters. And instead of providing EM for the team, this time for Columbina herself is gaining 30% crit rate. When you combine the fact she ascends with crit rate, can get crit rate from her actual passive. Now with this as well, and then depending on the weapon you're using, you're able to allocate a lot more stats into EM, HP, and crit damage. So for a on-field Columbina, this would be the one you want to run. Other than that, if you need to do 2-piece, you can do something like 2-piece HP percent with another 2-piece HP percent, such as Tenacity. If you need energy recharge, you can run 2-piece Emblem alongside that for the 20% energy recharge, or also 2-piece Silken for energy recharge as well. Or you can combine 2-piece of the ones that I didn't mention and do some 2-piece that increases EM, such as the Night of the Skies Unveiling set, or the brand new set 2-piece if you get a set that you can use for at least 2-piece there. Anyone that does have the 2-piece EM set can be used. After looking at what artifact stats you want to run for main stats, for the Sands you can do HP percent, Elemental Mastery, or Energy Recharge. HP percent is really good to help you reach the 35,000 HP you need to max out her Moon Sign passive in her base kit. So if you're struggling to reach that, HP percent would be your main way to go, but if you already reach it, you could sub it out for Elemental Mastery for more damage on the lunar reactions. Or if your Columbina is struggling with Energy Recharge, you can run Energy Recharge Sands instead. For the Goblet, you can do HP percent or Elemental Mastery. Again, 35,000 would be your main baseline goal. Getting more than that is still good, so I should have that as a note, but if you want to increase the lunar reaction damage, Elemental Mastery could be your way to go. And then for the Circlet, you want to run Crit. Substat priorities will be for HP, Energy Recharge, Elemental Mastery, and Crit. For Energy Recharge, aim around 170%. This can also change depending on anyone on the team helping you with energy and such, or if someone like Columbina herself is holding Favonius or anyone else. With every character holding Favonius, you can account for less energy regen needed, but if you're running her into something like Stingian Onslaught, in that case, getting 170% even with all the Fab procs would be recommended, or even higher than that. HP is also needed to be 35,000 in battle, so you have enough to max out the Moon Sign passive. So after the Energy Recharge, 35,000 HP would be your goal. For crit rate, just getting it around 80% would be ideal. Closer to 100% the better, but around 80% is all you really need. For crit damage and Elemental Mastery, just get it as high as you possibly can, while primarily focusing on the other stats around the levels that I did mention. Now, of course, the final part for team building. Columbina is an upgrade for both the main lunar DPSs that we do have, being Flins and Ineffa. So for Flins, starting off, of course, Columbina is going to be on the team, and then you would have Flins. So these would be the team right here. And then the other slot would obviously be Ineffa, since Ineffa and Flins are practically inseparable, since Flins and Ineffa are practically just a pair that you don't want to separate. And then the last slot would go to someone like Sucrose. So here you would just go ahead and use Sucrose. So Sucrose would go in the slot for her TDDS and especially Veritas Inventor. And so the team would look like this, and then you would sub accordingly depending on what needs you would for the character. Then for Nefer, of course, you'd have Columbina Nefer, and then the third slot would usually be Lauma, since she always goes on these teams as well, so it would be this. Last slot would go to a sustain if you really need it and you don't have any other option, like if you don't have C1 Lauma or anything. But if you want to run best damage in that slot, would go Nahida, so you would run a team like this. Of course, you're not strict to running those lunar DPSs. You can form many kinds of wheelchair comms, being especially with Columbina plus Ineffa. These are like the main pairs now. You can run like a wheelchair Nouvellette comp, so where you run that and then you'd put Nouvellette as like a more on-field character, so it look like this. And the last slot could go to many characters you want. You could put Shallonen for the actual shred, another character holding Veritas Inventor, so on and so forth. Ineffa can also theoretically go on these teams as well. The general format for using Columbina with a character is going to be the character you want to use, Columbina, either Lauma or Ineffa usually, and then your sustain if you want to, and then if you're doing a team without any sustain, it of course would depend on the character you are running as the main driver of the team. That is the full Columbina guide. I do hope you found this video helpful. If you did, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all other types of Genshin Impact content, and I'll see you later. Peace out.